Welcome to Part 2 of the Corbin Taxi Build-Up tutorial. In Part 1, we trimmed, assembled, painted, and detailed the exterior components for the taxi. In this tutorial, we'll be tackling the interior set and electronics. Let's get started. Let's start with the partition. You'll have a laser-cut partition screen and two window frames, one for each side. So that I can glue the chairs to a flush surface, I cut a couple extra pieces of styrene. I'm just laying this right down here. And that's what these benches will glue to. This is a little detail plane for the back of the cab. If you're looking down through that back window, this just gives you a little bit of something extra to look at. So just two pieces sandwiched together. Corbin's chair mounts to the partition, just basically like that. This rear bench and the secondary rear bench will need to be trimmed just a bit. It sits at about that level. So you want to trim, I don't know, about a little bit more than a quarter inch just to drop it right there so you can see the bottom of that window frame. This is Corbin's Gearshifter. This, along with the partition, the back piece, and the bottom of all of the benches are painted in off-white. I'm just using an Rust-Oleum Heirloom White. Let's work on the console. This is cast in clear resin. This is giving you the ability to light up all these monitors. You can do this masking with any kind of a masking compound or latex. What I have today is fast set silicone rubber. This stuff sets in about 20 minutes. So I'm going to paint these screens. Alright, that silicone is dry. I'm going to hit this with light blocking paint. The best I found is Tulip fabric paint. I'm going to hit this with black at first, and then to give it a more similar shade to its final color, I'll hit it with white. Then I'll paint it with that heirloom white that I used to paint the interior parts. Make sure that you're really getting those monitor areas. You really want to get a good coating on those. I'm going to paint these seats. These are all sort of a warm brown color. So I've got brown, white, and a little bit of orange. I'm just going to mix these together into something I like and paint these seat covers. Okay, now for a little pre-assembly. I'll be gluing Corbin's seat to one side of the partition, one of the benches to the other side. And this little guy is a detail plate for the back window, and he's going to glue right here. Before I strip away this masking, I mixed up a little bit of acrylic that's a dark brown. And I'm going to give this a little bit of a wash, a little bit of filter, just to bring out the detail of this piece. And you really start to see these things pop. All these little panels and keyboards. I'm applying the same wash to the interior parts. And you don't have to go as dark as I'm doing, or you can go more dramatic if you'd like. But I'm just applying a medium filter. And just giving it a little bit of grunge. Look how this piece comes alive. Just a little bit of that filtering of the dark brown. This is how the back of this looks. This is just two pieces of plastic triangles I cut to support this surface piece. I cut a piece of clear plastic to insert inside this partition. Alright, here is the final result of that console. I can see through all of those monitors, and there is absolutely no light leak. So we're going to detail all of these monitors with paper graphics. This sheet comes with your kit. These graphics go on the inside. This is a little ads and graffiti and all these little panels that go on the interior. These are for the console. There's a few different options. You can choose which ones you like better. Go ahead and cut those out with scissors and use a little bit of spray 77 and adhere them to your window blanks. Here's what that looks like with all those monitors filled up with the graphics. Just to seal everything down, a little bit of matte clear sealer. The front and back walls of this partition are detailed with these graphics. You apply them the same way. Just trim them out. Use a little bit of spray 77. I'm going to be detailing the interior walls of this taxi because you can see so much interior through those windows. I'm using some material. I'm not sure what this is. It's some kind of a canvas, I think, from Joann Fabrics. And I kind of got some paper and I traced out some templates. So I've got a side panel, a roof panel, and another side panel. Little spray 77 will adhere these. You can use these same Vallejo paints to stain your seats and weather the partition. Now that everything's painted and prepped, let's take a look at the position of all these parts. The console is going to live right here. You'll have to get a feel for where this sits, because if it's too far forward, the top won't go on very tight. But if it's too far back, then you'll have a little bit of gap. So that has to be just right. So what I did is I grabbed a pencil. I've got a couple hash marks here and over here. I know exactly the right placement for this. So he's going to sit there. Corbin's seat, of course, is going to be right behind that. Then there's a little gap. And the rear bench faces that. And again, you'll have to get a feeling for where this lives, so when you're looking down that back window, you see this platform. The actual LEDs and LED strip and all the materials for doing the lighting is provided by Voodoo Effects. So make sure if you're looking for parts to contact these guys. We have our set of resistors. We have the red LED strip for the rear tail lights, the white LED strip for the front running lights, interior lights. We've got the lights, the red lights for the cones, the light for the headlight, soldering gun setup, my twisted wire, shrink tube. I won't be using an on-off switch. Instead, I'll be using a direct DC jack plug-in that'll activate all the lights. Okay, let me show you my arrangement so far. So here is my female DC jack. It's coming out of a hole I drilled, and it's pretty well concealed under there. I've got a very long twisted wire coming out of the back. The wire that's splicing off of this going to the front of the model is handling lighting the console. All the other lights are coming off of this feed, the rear. The jack will be epoxied into place, and then I'll put the cover back on, and you can see that I put a hole for the wires to come through at the back and at the front. I have my DC jack connecting underneath. The wires are underneath this pan. I've got a live wire coming out of the front, and I've got a live wire coming out of the back. The rear red LED strip is mounted to the strip of plastic, same with the white front lights. And those glue down to that front support beam we installed at the beginning of this build-up. Okay, I've got all the lights hooked into one cable coming out of the back. The cable coming out of the front is only connecting this one strip that'll light that console. This is the yellow light that lights the headlight. This white strip is the front running lights. The red strip is the rear running lights. I've got a single white that lights the taxi bar that'll be hanging out of the hole, and two red LEDs that light the red horns at the very back of the cab. I'm starting to hard mount all these LEDs now. I've got the yellow headlight in place. The wire is just hanging loose. That'll be tucked away into this bottom edge. The taxi bar is glued in place. It's just hanging by its actual wires. That'll be tied into that line, run across the side. And the red LEDs drilled holes from the outside in, and I've got them poking through the back here, and that's where these little cones will mount in place. That took quite a bit of work. I've got the front light, the amber light working. I have all the lights in the front, the running lights. I've got the brake lights going on, the taxi lights lit up. Look at that console. And all that's left to do really is tidying up these wires. This is a nest of wires there. I'm using these little clips, these little clippy guys, to just sort of get everything tucked into the corners, and then we will wrap this up. Here's a look at the interior with the top shell off. I can see all these details. I can see that sort of dirtied up window, the console with all of these monitors. Boy, I wish this video camera didn't wash these out, but like each one of these has a different little screen readout. There's a Gearshifter box. And this is a little behind the scenes inside of that control console. And all these lights are working beautifully. And as I was saying earlier, like you can really see a lot of the interior, even though these windows are little slots, I can see everything inside here. Here's a look down into the caved-in roof. There's the taxi sign. Yeah, that is really something else. Really pleased I'm able to share this with you guys. If you'd like to learn how to get one of these kits, just send me a message or visit my Facebook, Instagram, or website. And I hope I was able to teach you some skills with this one, and I'll see you in the next tutorial. Thanks for watching.